We are almost out of the woods. We've got 2 episodes left tonight and next week. So let's jump into it, man. This is Castle Rock Recap. Let's talk about what just happened to us. What is up, guys? So let's get started the same way we've been doing it all season. Let's talk about your predictions and theories for what's going to happen in this episode. Rachel writes in that she thinks that we're going to find out that the kid is indeed Randall Flagg, and all of this is going to end in the beginning of some sort of apocalyptic mayhem. I don't know if I believe that. I really don't. If you had sent that in toward the beginning of the season, maybe, but I don't think that this kid is some sort of big evil like Randall Flagg. Maybe still a little bit evil, like, you know, a lesser evil, but I don't think you're going to see him as Randall Flagg. But that's just me. I have been wrong before, but I was right about axe-wielding Jackie. I'm putting that on the scoreboard. That's happened here, okay? That's now canon. So I don't know about that, but we'll see. Brooke thinks that all of this is going to culminate in some sort of dark tower situation that, and I'm paraphrasing her here because this was quite long, but it's going to culminate in some sort of dark tower scenario. She thinks that the kid is from the Dark Tower universe and Henry is from the real universe, and that they're actually the same versions of each other, but from different timelines or different realities. I think that that is entirely possible. We've seen enough evidence to support that theory, specifically in Mark Bernardin's episode. I think that it's possible, you know, talking about the voice of God and how it's really a multitude of sounds, all of these other realities, all that ever was, will be, and can be, all converging at once, and you're hearing the universe trying to rectify itself, which is essentially string theory. It's basically what they're doing in The Flash. The best, most elegant representation I've ever seen of that was in BioShock Infinite. So basically sounds to me a lot like string theory. So, I mean, I don't think that that's out of the realm of possibility. I think that there's probably a little bit more to it than that, but I definitely think that that's awesome. So, yeah, we'll see on that one too, won't we, Brooke? And the last one that I'm going to read, this one, I've gotten a bunch, but this one specifically comes from Michael because I owe him a shout out. So, Michael, here's your shout out. He thinks that we're going to find out that the kid is an alternate timelines version of Henry's dad. I think that that's probably a good guess because, I mean, he did know Ruth. She saw him as Henry's father in a couple of her flashes in that episode, so in The Queen. So I think that that's entirely possible. It's obvious that he doesn't look like what Henry's dad looked like back when Henry was a boy, but at the same time, if memory serves, that's when he died too. That's when Molly killed his ass. So I think that that's definitely a possibility, that he's like a younger version of him from like a different timeline, or made flesh or something like that, or he is in fact the resurrected Dark Preacher, because I'm still convinced that there's a resurrection situation here. So I don't know, but that is going to wrap up with the speculation and theories portion of this. Let's jump right in and find out what's actually going to happen in this episode, because the trailer is awesome. And as you guys know, I'm going to start this with the trailer right.
Henry, Matthew, Deaver.
Do you hear it now?
We have to go.
As long as that devil walks the streets of Castle Rock, tragedy after tragedy will pile up until he is back in a cage.
You believe me, don't you?
Wow. That episode has a lot to unpack, but I don't think that I can do this in the same way that I've done it in the past. Usually what I like to do on Castle Rock Recap, which is not exactly what all the other YouTube channels do, is I try to find and highlight a couple of key scenes in each episode. Scenes that work on multiple levels or that I think was significantly important and or awesome. But it's kind of impossible for me to do in this episode, at least to me. I mean, maybe you guys think that I'm completely wrong and you're like, no, this season was the best, motherfucker. But this episode as a whole, to me, was just mesmerizing. There was so much story and so many questions answered, which is refreshing considering that this is a J.J. Abrams joint. Yes, I know that Abrams works on Westworld as well. And here's the thing about Westworld, there's still so many questions left unanswered going into season 2 and then going into season 3. And, you know, not to the degree that Lost was, but there's still a lot of questions unanswered. There is a confirmed season 2 for Castle Rock that is already a thing, so I don't expect everything to be wrapped up neat and tidy. Again, it has also been said that this is going to be an anthology series. Well, if American Horror Story has taught us anything, it's that you can have unresolved plot threads and then wrap them up in subsequent seasons, or continue on a bit of lore touching on things in certain seasons. So I don't expect everything to be wrapped up neatly here. However, this episode did a hell of a lot to do that, and it also left a lot of room for speculation and room for either you got it or maybe not. So let's jump right into this. The kid is not Henry's father. So I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry to everybody that thought that he's not Henry's father. I made a prediction in one of my previous episodes, and then I walked it back. I thought I was wrong. So I called it out, and then I walked it back. Turns out, myself and, without exaggeration, at least 20 to 25 of you guys that send in this speculation, we were right, at least at one point. The kid is Henry Deaver from a different reality. More than likely, this is the same Henry Deaver that would have been born in our prime timeline or our prime reality if they did not have a miscarriage. Remember, during the course of the series, we found out that Ruth did have a child. She was with child, but lost it. That is presumably who that Henry Deaver was, but in a different reality. They then went on to adopt, and we got the Henry that we now know. So that is what I think happened here. We see in this other reality that Henry's dad still has all this religious excitation and all this religious fanaticism. And we also find out that there was a bit of resurrection in his past. His mother killed him with what looks to be a scene of postpartum depression gone to the extreme, or nervous breakdown gone to the extreme. And look, I have a little kid, okay? He's 2 now, but I've had those sleepless nights where I'm at the end of my rope. But that was monstrous and hard to watch. That, speaking as a parent, speaking as a fucking human being, that was monstrous and hard to watch. And Castle Rock went there. So I guess maybe I can point out a couple of different scenes. I thought I couldn't. But overall, this story seems to take place in the other reality. Not almost, it flat out was stated right at the end. This was the kid telling his backstory to Molly in our reality. He's explaining exactly who he is, where he comes from, why he knows what he knows, why he does what he does. And here's the thing. You also start to see other episodes differently. Like, I was really creeped out and I was really uncomfortable during the episode The Queen, when the kid comes through the door, he knows Ruth, he's talking to Ruth, and he's trying to comfort her, he's dancing with her, he draws her a bath. You know, I'm thinking that this is menacing, that this is some dark shit, that he's trying to fuck with her in some sort of way. Seeing this episode now, that wasn't the case. This episode made me appreciate the Queen even more, and I'm probably going to have to go back and rewatch that episode specifically all over again, now knowing what I know. It wasn't an act of malice or evil or insidiousness. It was his kid trying to take care of his mom. And there is a possibility, sure, that the kid is an unreliable narrator. There's always that possibility. I mean, again, J.J. Abrams, knowing who the people in the writer's room are, they are likely to pull the rug out from under us. But let's be honest, they've already done that a ton of times. You know, Pangborn's dead. Ruth she has dementia. We now see that there are different realities. We got the voice of God happening. The rug has been pulled out from under us multiple times. How many times can they get away with the same trick? You know, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, I guess, with different realities and unreliable narrators, shame on me. I don't think that that's the case. I think that the kid is telling the truth in this. And with that in mind, when he's drunk a bath for Ruth and when he's trying to dance with her, he's trying to comfort and take care of and spend some time with his mom. And it's not just spending time with and on her for the betterment of herself. He's been in this reality and locked in a cage for 27 years, away from presumably his wife, if not, girlfriend, doesn't really matter, but his partner, who we find out may or may not be pregnant in this episode. So this version of Henry has a baby on the way. His mom is living down in Florida with Pangborn. In this reality, she did leave. And he goes back to the house, finding out that the person who killed himself in this reality was his dad, not Lacey. Remember, Lacey locked the kid in the cage for 27 years. In this reality, Henry was the one locked in the cage for 27 years. And also realize Henry hasn't aged either. He's still 11 years old. He's still that young. So when you're seeing that scene in The Queen, it's heartbreaking on multiple levels. Try to look at it through multiple lenses now, man. He's gone on for almost 3 decades without knowing the touch of not just anyone but his mom, his wife, his potential unborn child, growing to adulthood right before his eyes. His kid would be his age at this point. It's heartbreaking looking at it through that lens. But then you also have to wonder, you've got the paradox of whenever he's around, bad things happen. Now, here's my question. Is it the kid that's making these bad things happen? Or is it actually our Henry that are making these bad things happen? Because these happened the minute he got back into town. These happened as soon as he started to be around Zaliski. He started to be around the prison. He started to be around... He dropped the kid off at the psych center. Then everything happens. Is that the situation? Is it actually our Henry that's causing these all of these tragedies to happen? Or is it that the universe abhors a paradox? Is it the fact that there are 2 Henrys from 2 different realities existing in the same place, and that is what's causing all of this to happen? Or maybe it's a third option, something along the lines of this Henry and the other Henry are both in tune with that harmonic frequency. And obviously, it's been alluded to, not only in the show, but also in the books, that evil seeks out Castle Rock for a multitude of reasons. Maybe it's because they feel safe there. Maybe they're drawn to what we're now seeing as the ring or the voice of God. Whether or not that actually is the voice of God, I now more than ever think is up for fucking debate. But maybe it's the town itself, and they're just focusing that energy and tuning it in a little bit deeper. So it's hard to say, man, but I'm gonna put my money on the universe abhors a paradox. It's the fact that there are 2 of them there. The one that is the outsider, the alien for this universe, is the one that's causing the upheaval and causing bad things to happen. Because to a degree we saw it with younger Henry. Only in this case, he admitted that he was the one that hurt the other kids, and he's the one that started the fire, and he is the one that caused, how many did they say dead? 5 dead, 10 missing, I believe, after the fire that Henry started. But that wasn't just a matter of happenstance. He's the one that actually started that. So I don't know. There's plenty of ways to look at it. There's plenty of theories that we could go with, but this episode, man, this was deep. And now we have the question, is Molly going to believe him? I don't know. I hope so, because I personally do not think that the kid is an unreliable narrator. I think that this is what's happening, that this is the story, and we need to go on from there and see what's happening. The last thing I want to talk about is when Henry tries to get back. He tries to run after that ringing, and Molly touches him, and she can see this almost like fresco painting of a sky, man. What is that? Is that her seeing into the blind eternities, the way station to all of these other realities? Or maybe that is the Dark Tower and Brooke is right. Maybe she's seeing into that reality. Maybe we've been lied to the entire time, that this isn't a story about Castle Rock. This is the long anticipated and long talked about Dark Tower series being kicked off in spectacular underground fashion. That was actually the plan, was to have a Dark Tower TV series in conjunction with the Dark Tower movies, but the movie bombed, so the show isn't happening. Or is it? Hard to say. It was beautiful, and I want to say that it was some sort of way station in between realities, but maybe we'll find out in the finale. I don't know. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Obviously, you can always tweet at me. You can hit me up on Facebook. That's right there. Join the discussion at Castle Rock, at the Castle Rock fan page. Facebook.com/group/Castle Rock fans. I'm hanging out there. A lot of my friends are hanging out there, man. So join the discussion over there. If you're not subscribed, please consider doing so, man. And hitting that like button, it helps the channel out a metric ton. And it gets Castle Rock in front of more eyes. Because believe it or not as many people as I would assume have seen this show, despite the fact that it is now considered must-see TV. So let's keep talking about Castle Rock, man. We got season 2 coming. Let's talk about it until season 2 premieres. And you can follow that news and information. I'm going to be covering much more right here on this channel. When the show's done, I'm not. I'm going to continue on with this because I've got people to talk to and I've got news that I'm sure I'm going to be covering within the next year. So, one more time, man, comment, get at me any other way you want to. Like, subscribe. See you next week on Castle Rock Recap.